We're smooth 98.1 FM. Good morning and welcome to the locker room as I'm joined by Tega Onojiafe. Tega, welcome. Hello, Tega. You have to unmute now.
Not Afrobeats today.
No,
Good
okay.
morning, everybody.
Morning.
All right. What's happening today? Well, nothing big, nothing major. Just that Manchester United have a new owner, but he's not a.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a lavish uncle that Chelsea had. Roman Abramovich. He would just bring out his wallet anytime. Those were the uncles you like to visit.
Mm.
Sir Radcliffe is not necessarily a lavish uncle. He's that uncle that has money, but he will ask you 10,000 questions before he release it. However,
Prudent.
that's what you want to call him. That's not what I used to call them. Oh. But let's go with prudent as his Wednesday morning and his morning radio. I like to call him Sakpa uncle, but let's just say it's prudent.
Okay.
But, the transaction has been officially completed for the Manchester United investment. So let's see how this partnership works out. We know how it's working out for Chelsea. The uncle is spending money, but there's no impact. Um, so let's see if Manchester United's own will bring impact. What else is happening? We'll be talking about the UEFA Champions League. We'll touch a little on the Premiership because there was an interesting movement last night. We'll also talk about the 1,000 Masters in the WTA going on in Dubai. And then we'll round up. No, we'll not round up. We'll start from Africa rather, and then we'll round up in Europe. But let's see how all of that pans out only after you tell us how we can be a part of this wonderful locker room show this morning.
Now, to be part of the locker room conversation this morning, we expect you to send WhatsApp messages to 0809 444 0981, 0809 444 0981. And then you can also choose to be part of our growing YouTube family on youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos. Search for us, subscribe to the channel, and then leave your comments there as the program progresses, and then we get to pick them up also. But if Tega is in the mood for therapy this morning, you might have a phone line to call in this morning. But for now, Tega, that's it.
All right, so let's start with the headlines and then we'll see if there's need for therapy later on.
On the bill this morning comes 2025 AFCON in Morocco to hold in July, August, as Dubai Tennis Championships, Arena Sabalenka loses to Donna Vekic as Iga Swiatek and Coco Gauff through. Then comes Haaland goal puts Man City within a point of Liverpool. Then also there would be Barca boss Xavi weary of Napoli under new coach. Then comes Klopp says Jota faces months out as Liverpool injury crisis deepens and the coach is running out of energy at some point. But also there would be late Anatovic goal gives Inter win over Atletico. Then comes Luke de Jong's goal, took him past Ruud van Nistelrooy to become PSV's leading goal scorer in the Champions League with 9. Also, there will be Gennaro, the man they call the General Gattuso. Marcel sacked manager and replaced him with John Luis Gasset. That's what we see on the lineup this morning, Tega.
All right, they're sacking and hiring everybody everywhere. I told you it's the best
Mm.
job security is being a football manager. They fire you in 3 months, somebody else will hire you. That's just the way to go. But before we do that, let's start with the African Cup of Nations. Everybody was so excited about African Cup of Nations this January in Cote d'Ivoire. But 2025 could be in July, August in Morocco. What's the story?
The Confederation of African Football CAF has reached an agreement in principle for the 2025 Cup of Nations to be played in July, August next year in Morocco. So that's what we see Mosepe's CAF is into now.
All right. So remember, this didn't necessarily start with Motsepe's calf, but Motsepe's calf seems to be a little more structured, even if they play their cards close to their chest. It seems to be a little more structured and organized in decimating this information and making these kind of things happen. All right. So they were talking about moving African Cup of Nations to July, August because of all the European, the African players playing in the European League, and why are you taking players from the European leagues, and yada yada yada, and blah blah blah, and all the other nonsense that people talk about. Because I call it nonsense when you think about the continent of Africa. And so the most important thing was weather. So they had planned to do this before. And then when they said, Cote d'Ivoire was going to be host for 2024, everybody was like, you want to play football, outdoor football in West Africa in July, August, or even June, July. Not even July. Then it was June, July. They were proposing. You want to play football in West Africa in June, July? Do you want to play this football match, or you want to play water sports? Let's
Water
know
polo.
what you want to do. Because people take it for granted. They're like, oh, but despite the heavy snow in Europe, they still play football in winter. Well, do you know how many matches they call off in winter? And those people have all the facilities. They have underground heating. They have good drainage. They have well-designed football pitches. And sometimes they still have to call off matches. Now, it's easy to call off a league match because, it's 38 matches, and those league matches take place between the months of August to May. So there's time to replay them. But for a 1 month tournament, you cannot be calling off matches. And so, yes, weather is a major issue. Anybody that tells you otherwise is ignorant of the realities of the torrential downpours that happen in West Africa. And the fact that some infrastructure cannot hold weather, no matter how well designed.
But then it's just West Africa. What about the other countries on the continent?
Exactly.
North Africa,
So
North America, North Africa.
So that's where I'm coming to that side.
Yes.
So you cannot host an African Cup of Nations where an entire part of the continent cannot host, because the tournament has to go round. It's like saying we're going to play World Cup, but only Europe will be hosting World Cup. How? South America, it must touch South America, it must touch Asia, it must touch Africa. That's one of the reasons why Sepp Blatter was able to stay longer, because he helped to move these things round. It's important that it touches, people get the right to host everywhere. If it's World Cup and I'm involved in it, then it should host around the world. Cannot host on one continent. The same thing with the African Cup of Nations. If it's the African Cup of Nations, we must consider all the nuances and the eccentricities of everywhere in Africa. All right. So after they had wumbled and fumbled, they now decided, okay, we are going back to West Africa in January. Now, of course, they've looked at the decision and the location, and this will be suitable to host in Morocco, July, August. So it's fine. But I don't think that we will always host African Cup of Nations in July, August, for the simple reason that it's not realistically possible. You cannot build infrastructure that will fight nature. If you think I'm lying, ask Kanji Dam. You cannot build infrastructure that will fight nature. At some point in time.
Did you see the impact of the rain after just for 1 hour yesterday in
Lagos? Do you understand what I'm talking about? You can't. So I'm even saying that's why I try to call to people's mind. Even in Europe, where you claim that there is infrastructure, they call off matches in winter. That's why, think about it. UEFA Champions League, how do they play it? They start in September, October, November. They resume in February, when some things have started to thaw. It's just not. So let's be realistic. This is Africa. We cannot always play African Cup of Nations in June, July, August. So moving on.
Moving on, let's get on to Dubai, where the Dubai Tennis Championships is ongoing. Arina Sabalenka's first appearance since winning the Australian Open ended with a defeat by Croatian Dona Vekic at the Dubai Tennis Championship. Sabalenka lost 12 of the last 13 games as the Croatian Vekic won 6-7, 6-3, 6-love in the second round match.
Yes. I think it was tough for everybody to believe. So Sabalenka had won the Australian Open. She didn't come to the 1,000 Masters in Doha. That one was won by Iga Swiatek for the third time in a row. And then she comes to Dubai 1,000 Masters. Um, and her very first match against Duna Vekic, everybody thought, okay, well rested Arena Sabalenka, big hitter, in very good form. In fact, almost contending for number one because Iga Swiatek has a lot of titles to defend, and so that means if she loses, her downfall can be great. So Sabalenka, you expected Sabalenka to pile on the pressure. She's won one time, the first Grand Slam of the year. How many more titles, especially when it comes to big titles like 1,000 Masters and 500 titles? How many can she accrue? She steps into this match. And don't get me wrong, Dona Vekic is one of those tricky players. I think Dona Vekic's biggest problem, apart from injuries, is also discipline. Herself and Ostapenko, I think those two women, if they are very disciplined, I don't think they'd be as lowly ranked as they really are. Because if you watch them play tennis, if you look at their talents, if you see the shots these people can make, you can tell that these people were destined for great things and they just got derailed or distracted one way or the other. And so Dona Vekic is capable of, having all these huge results. And she steps up against Sabalenka, and Sabalenka was frustrated. Now, I think what also made it easier for Dona Vekic is the fact that Sabalenka hadn't played since the Australian Open. And usually the best times to get upsets against players that are in great form or that are highly ranked is in the first few matches of a tournament because everybody is just literally feeling their way around. You watched Coco Golf yesterday. Coco Golf result was 6-1, 7-5. But even in that tournament, when you look at it, it's straight sets win. Especially the first set looked comfortable. But when you watch the match, there were so many unforced errors coming off the Coco Golf racket. So most players are feeling their way around in the first one or two matches in most tournaments. And so that's a good time to get an upset. But it was a brilliant performance by Dona Vekic, and she kept her focus all through. In other news, Iga Swiatek continued. The Iga Swiatek train continued, and this time she steamrolled past Sloane Stephens. It was a brilliant match to watch. Both women breaking each other couple of times. Great shot making. Not the best tennis match when you're talking about serves, but all in all, a brilliant tennis match. But Iga Swiatek came out top. So let's see whether Iga Swiatek can do back-to-back 1,000 Masters, or if Rybakina can decide that she's going to win this one, because Rybakina is still in this tournament.
Let's touch base with Etihad this morning in England, as Erling Haaland took Manchester City to within the point of Premier League leaders Liverpool, but the champions were made to sweat for a 1-0 win over Brentford. Lowly ranked Brentford on Tuesday.
You can say lowly ranked, or you can say tricky Brentford, because that's what they are, very tricky team. And their team in good form, with players still in good form coming into that team. I think there is, we have this idea or this mindset that, second half of the season, Manchester City know exactly how to navigate their way around and get results. But the last two games have shown that they struggle. And they struggled against Chelsea. And like I said, they were lucky to get away with a 1-1 draw against Chelsea. If Chelsea had a little bit of quality or better finishing, the match could have been long gone away from Manchester City before they even had, Rodri even had time to bury that goal. But yesterday also proved another tough one, because, they get on the pitch and they look a bit, I would say, disorganized, because especially in the final third, because they will dominate possession. They'll get the ball in and around the 18-yard box. They just do not know what to do with it. Everybody was seemed to have a bad day, from Alvarez to Phil Foden, even to Erling Haaland before Aya slipped and Erling Haaland made that run and scored the goal. So yes, they got the result yesterday, and yes, they're just 1 point behind Liverpool, and they have an opportunity to, maybe go to Anfield and defeat Liverpool and maybe take top spot in the Premier League. But they're not inspiring any confidence right now. And because of the time of the season that this is, which is when they're usually in great form and great shape, is baffling everybody, including Pep Guardiola.
It is still the locker room on Smooth 98.1 FM. Still more on the other side. I've got coming. Barca boss Xavi still in the news. We've got Club also speaking. And then I will get to Atletico all on the other side.
Are there messages? Are there messages?
So Tega, yes,
are there messages?
Messages are here on YouTube and also on WhatsApp.
So when we come back, let's take those messages.
Noted. All right.
Insurance when you buy comprehensive motor insurance from AXA. Stand a chance to win up to 100,000 naira in purchase pounds and other amazing prizes when you buy AXA motor insurance. Hurry now, call 0700 AXA Mansa or visit axamansa.com to get started. Terms and conditions apply. No, you can't. Not miss any much day because with the new show must bring out the out every much day is my day. Street the line for the issue must have for just 2,940. Chicken change for you and chicken change for me. So you've heard Obi Kubana. Join the excitement and stream all 380 days of the Premier League live on your mobile. Download and subscribe to the new Showmax app today. Showmax, stream for Africa. Quality TVs process. Regardless of comfort, experience the Kenyan levels flavorful and balanced taste in every sip. Discover the things flavorful and balanced taste. It's Johnny Drill, and you're listening to the Smooth Breakfast Show.
It is still the locker room on Smooth 98.1 FM. Tega still here, and you are there because we see your messages and we go right across to get the messages. Tega, what say you?
Let's start with the messages. Yes, YouTube people. Hello.
All right. We see you. So I pick up this message from Charles Chidozie, and he says, I'm so disgusted by the fact that CAF is allowing themselves to be tossed around by external influences. The AFCON is being played in January, is unique on its own. It should be left the way it is. That's what it is. So more like if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Then I see, I see Obisheson is saying the audio is low, but just let us get the feedback once more. Would make sure we get that raised up so you can get the audio on YouTube. Then I find what's here? Padre Pio says, shame on CAF, bowing to external pressure to shift the timing of the AFCON. Shame. And then Obisheson comes back saying, hello, Tega, seems you have shelved boxing. For instance, it would be nice to know your thoughts on AJ and Francis Ngannou's matchup. Those are the messages I can see for now.
Sorry. AJ and Francis Ngannou is not necessarily boxing. Should be, it's UFC meets boxing in a boxing match. But yeah.
Don't worry, we got you all covered around all the sports. So definitely, Tega will keep you posted. But let's go over to WhatsApp and see what Ibukun has for us this morning. Ibukun comes up from K2. Tega, Abba, what in Man United do you? You said it's morning radio, but you called Sir Jim Sakba Uncle. Why? But it goes on. CAF should stop dancing to the West. We moved AFCON to add to odd years because of Qatar World Cup. Now they want to move it to the rainy season because of European leagues. Ibuku from K2's thoughts this morning. Then Ifedayo says, Super Tega. It goes, that means Sir Ratcliffe is Baba, I, bam. You know that format, that platform now where they go with Baba I. That's what he refers to here. Then AY from Oniru comes in. City might be spamming these lucky victories till they get to face both Liverpool and Arsenal in the return leg fixture. And then it goes, now Haaland has scored against every single Premier League team is faced in the EPL. Massive is what he has to say. Final
Yep.
message here comes in from Dapo, from Bethnal Green. He says, let's not make any excuses for Man City because they are just mere human beings like everybody else. If their efficiency ratio decreases, it is just so because everything has expiry date. Yes, that's what we can say. So,
Right.
Tega?
So on that note, maybe we'll tell Pep Guardiola that everything has expiry date. You shouldn't bother again tactical. That's not the problem. All right, but yeah, that was one thing I omitted. Yes, Haaland has scored against every single Premier League team he's played against, and he only joined the Premier League last season. What a
Hmm.
record! All right, so let's go to the next story.
To Spain we go as the Barcelona coach Xavi Hernandez says preparing for Wednesday's Champions League last 16 tie against Napoli has proved tricky with the Italians now under new management.
All right, so sorry, let's talk about before we talk about Barcelona, let's talk about Napoli first. So remember, Napoli had a coach, Rudy
Hmm.
Garcia, after Spalletti decided that he was leaving, he was out, like Michael Jordan. And so they hired Rudy Garcia, and results were not going according to plan. There were rumors that, even the locker room did not agree with him, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. He was fired. They said, thank you, and they fired him. They hired Mazzari. Mazzari has been there only 3 months, and now they fired him too. So they fired him because they are ninth on the table and the results are not coming. I'm just thinking, perhaps it's not only the coaches that are the problem, because this is two different coaches with two different styles of play from two different generations, and the result is still the same. And now they've hired a third coach. This time, the coach is actually a national team coach. So they've hired him just to the end of the season. And then they will see how they will take it from there. So he may not even be their last bus stop. They're like, Napoli is now like the woman in the whale. At
Hmm.
the well with Jesus Christ. So she had six husbands, but none of them was her husband. So Napoli is like that right now. They've had three coaches, but none of them is the feminine one. So we're waiting to see what happens with them. But it's a crazy situation at Napoli because the minute it's like Spalletti left and everything fell down. Like he was the center that was holding everything together. But they come up against a Barcelona side who also have their struggles. Remember this weekend, it took, I would still call it let me, for want of a better word, a controversial penalty for them to get a win this weekend. And that penalty, they even had to take it twice because the first one was missed by Lewandowski, even if the goalkeeper moved off the line. So you look at that situation, and yes, I understand why Xavi would be worried because he hasn't had time to study how this Napoli would react. He's a completely different coach. The team could react very differently. They could come with a hunger, a determination to turn things around under new management, and so they will play a little differently. And he may not be prepared for that. I totally understand where he's coming from, but I also say that Xavi has had his own problems, and should he not get the results against Napoli today, it may not be just simply down to the question of Napoli having a new coach and playing a different way. It may also be a consequence of the results he's delivered with this team in the past few months. So tough one for Xavi Hernandez. He has already said he's leaving at the end of the season, but I'm sure he'll want to leave, with some good reports. Already in the La Liga, he's fallen too far behind to make any difference. But in the Champions League, he can still go a step further. So let's see how this works out for him. But for Napoli, pray for them.
All right, pray for Napoli. But then let's cross over now to England once again, where Diogo Jota faces months on the sidelines after damaging his knee in Liverpool's win at Brentford, adding to Jurgen Klopp's mounting injury woes as the chase for the Premier League glory would mark somewhere along the line where he eases off the bus and says he's done.
All right, yeah, the boss is tired. It appears that the players are tired too. But this was a really tough one for Liverpool. They won that match, albeit convincingly, and then they had to suffer several injuries. One of those including Diogo Jota. Now remember, Liverpool already has a plethora of injuries. In fact, they had to rush Mo Salah back because the plan was he trained, and should they need him, they feature him for just a few minutes in Brentford. They had to feature him a lot earlier. And so you look at the injury problems that they have, it could be a tough one for Jurgen Klopp to navigate. However, they face a Luton side this weekend that, can give away goals. The thing about Luton is an interesting team. They will play football, they will score goals, they'll make the match interesting. But if you're clinical, you'll get several chances against them to put the ball in the back of the net. So Luton is always involved, especially against the top teams. They're involved in interesting matches, tightly close matches, but ultimately they lose. So I think Liverpool should be able to navigate the Luton problem today. The question is further down the line, how many injuries can they take before they start dropping points? Because, like I said, they're just 1 point ahead of Manchester City. They're playing a match today, so they might be a game ahead of everybody else. But if those injuries are piling up and people are missing for weeks, how long can they deliver the results in that period? That's the question they need to ask themselves.
They might just have Lionel Richie's "How long must this feeling go on?"
How long? My 2 minutes music of fame.
Let's go over to this next one where Marko Arnautovic gave Inter Milan a single goal advantage in their Champions League last 16 tie with Atletico Madrid after netting the only goal in Tuesday's hard-fought 1-0 win.
Look, this match, I actually thought this tie would go all the way to penalties. I did, because the way that Inter Milan and Atletico Madrid played, they kind of cancel out each other. Yesterday, Inter Milan had chance after chance, though. And ironically, Atletico Madrid had some very close chances where they should have, been able to snatch at least a draw. But Morata, some days he's like Coily Sue. When he's good, he's very, very good. When he's bad, he's horrid. And that's exactly what happened yesterday, because he did have a few chances to just bury it, and you could just see that yesterday was not his day. But Inter Milan took advantage of their one chance where Oblak had performed magic, but his defenders couldn't. So he saved a shot from Lautaro Martinez. Unfortunately, Arnautovic picked up the rebound and slotted in the back of the net before any Atletico Madrid defender could get to him. Now, the thing is, it's a two-legged tie, and 1-0 is not such a great advantage. But can Atletico Madrid go to host Inter Milan and not concede against them? That is the question. 1-0 is tightly paused, but the way that Atletico Madrid concede one or two dodgy goals, Inter Milan may just have taken an advantage, if you ask me.
Let's go over to where a new record has been set, where Luke de Jong coolly converted penalty and PSV Eindhoven a draw against Borussia Dortmund in the first leg of the Champions League tie of 16.
That was another interesting one. In fact, that was the match to watch if you're looking for goals. The Inter Milan match was a bit too tactical. Like I said, both teams cancelling out themselves. But Dortmund playing against the home team, playing against the run of possession, were able to get one or two chances that, when you look at those chances, you think they really should have buried those chances, considering the way that the fact that they were the away team. But they eventually scored one goal from a brilliant strike. Unfortunately, the way PSV kept putting pressure, piling on pressure, throwing that ball into the 18-yard box, you did feel at some point in time that Dortmund was going to get an equalizer. I'm sorry, that PSV was going to get an equalizer, and they did get the equalizer. So what they've done is that match is now beautifully poised, 1-1, and when they go to Dortmund, it will be finally decided. All right. On that note, you can't take any more stories because we are past time. Can we just round up with one or two messages?
Let's go over to YouTube where your message is waiting. That's the line of the morning right now. It's sent in by Padre Pio reacting to your description of Napoli's coach as the woman at the well. It goes, Napoli is like the woman at the well with Jesus. Tega. You forget Tega is a mounted person. That's what it is. Moving on. But we Barcelona fans have lowered our expectations this season. This team needs a total reset and overhaul. That's from Abiodun Obisheson. That's all I see on YouTube. And then final message will be that of Shola. It says, yet Messi will collect golden boot, not Haaland, after all this performance we see. How can Tega explain that one now?
No, I don't need to explain it. Collect golden boots for what? Golden boots is different too. He won World Cup, he was best player. That's different from scoring high number of goals. But Haaland has done fantastically well. Let's see how he ends the season. But the guy, you know that the guy the people are talking about now is not Erling Haaland, is Jude Bellingham, because he's coming this season to Real Madrid and he's done greatness. So let's see that battle between the both of them.
Tega, that's a wrap. So,
all right. Thank you for sending your messages. Thank you for tuning in to us. Thank you for watching on YouTube. And today is Wednesday, so let's do something great in the Champions League. See how we will go for especially Barcelona and Napoli. To come your way again on Friday. It's bye for now.
And Afrobeats, bye.